welcome back to the Performance Injury Report. What's up, Mark?
What up, Nick? Hello! Mrs. Doubtfire, everyone. Mrs. Doubtfire.
That was pretty good. Pretty good. Hello.
Very good. Very good.
Is it the whipped cream?
It's the whipped cream, yeah. One lump or two.
Scene.
One lump or two.
Great movie. Rest in peace, Robin Williams. Oh, man. So, looking like the weather's getting better out there. Look like we might have a 70-degree day tomorrow. Things are looking up. In the sports world, there are some injuries that we are going to need to talk about, but I'm gonna give this a second, let people join us, and if you are joining us, let us know that you're there. Give us a wave. Let us know where you're watching from, and let us know if you have any questions about one of your favorite athletes, somebody on your fantasy squad. Baseball is in full swing. We are going to talk about a little baseball today, a little basketball, and a little football. But make sure if you have any questions, you put them down in the comments below, and Dr. Mark and I will tackle those. Speaking of tackle, let's talk about a little football. Mark, do you like that segue right there?
We do. Very good, Nick. Very good.
All right. So what always happens is every Monday, Dr. Mark joins me, and we talk about, the injuries going on. And then as soon as we end the broadcast, some breaking news comes out that we just missed, and it comes out every Monday afternoon right after we do the injury report. So last week, we have right after we get done, we hear that the Patriots have canceled, or what exactly? I don't remember exactly how it was phrased, but they
terminated. I think it's terminated. That's
terminated.
Terminated.
Edelman's contract due to a failed physical, and then people are like, "Oh, here we go. He's going to Tampa. He wants out." Blah blah blah. And then I think it was either Mike Reese or might have been Schefter came out and said, "No, this is more like he can't play anymore, and it looks like he's going to be retiring." And then he came out and put out a message, and it looks like that's exactly what he said. He said he was going to play till the wheels fall off, and he said the wheel has fallen off, and his knee has just not been able to heal to get back to playing at the level he'd like to. Is it worth saying this is Pedroia-esque? Same way he tried to come back and couldn't do it. Mark, what are your thoughts on Julian Edelman and his retirement?
I think that's a good comp. Dustin Pedroia had the arthritis, the bone on bone. But we say in the business arthritis. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it's smart with we know the difference between the two sports, between football and baseball. But Julian Edelman, obviously we know he made his career on those short routes where he's in and out of his breaks very quickly. A quick first step, a lot of cutting, a lot of stopping, accelerating. You just can't, at his age and with the amount of mileage and stuff like that on his knee, I think he's probably making the best decision. I mean, we saw it last year. He just can't play. And even when he was out there, he didn't look good. So, I think that he was a great Patriot. I think when he first started on the team, he was like a punt returner, and I hated him. And I was like, this guy's terrible. He's no good. Shows what I know about football, about anything,
I can't act like I didn't act the same way. I remember when they brought in Danny Amendola after Welker left. We thought, oh, here we go. Amendola is going to replace Welker. Edelman was, I think he came back on a one-year deal because he hadn't been able to put it together yet. And then he stepped up that year and was a beast. And Amendola was, I think, probably injured here and there and missed some time, but he was never lived up to what they thought he was going to be, which was going to be Welker's replacement. Julian Edelman did, and then, we know what he did in the postseason. His career numbers aren't great, if you're looking at them because he was injured a lot. But his postseason numbers, second to only Jerry Rice. So, hats off to Edelman for just being a dude who was out there, hurt or not, all the time, laying it all out on the line and giving it his all. And I'm gonna miss him, but I'd rather see him retire as healthy as he can remain than come out here and risk, further injuring himself or being a shell of his former self and not being able to do it. So, happy to see him go out on his terms, although it's sad that it's a knee, it's a knee injury. But, I've heard some people floating some things out there. Oh, he's going to wind up in Tampa. I really don't know where he would fit in Tampa, seeing they have so much talent on the team. But there's you don't think there's any way that we see Julian back on the field this year or next year, right?
I do not. I think that his playing days are over. So any other information that comes out with his signing on a team, I would think would be just for publicity. Or I agree with you. Even if he went to Tampa Bay, I don't think he would make the team. I don't think he makes the team on that receiving corps. So I think he's done.
I can name 3 receivers on that team that are better than him, 2 tight ends that are better than him, and running backs that can catch the ball too. So he would be on the list of weapons. He'd be
pretty low,
way down the list. So while we're talking about Tampa Bay, let's talk about Tom Brady.
Mm-hmm.
He came out this week and talked about saying he's feeling good after getting a little knee surgery a little while ago to clean up that knee. Any concerns about Tom Brady at his age getting his knee cleaned up a little bit?
No, I mean, the guy, I would say one thing. He's a weirdo. He is a weirdo off the field. He's a big old weirdo. But he definitely knows how to take care of himself. I think that's the one thing you can say about him that no one can really argue with is that, he's always ready to go at the beginning of the season. He gets his body ready. He fights through discomfort and injuries. So I think that'll be totally fine. I think the one thing you have to worry about is, again, when a player of his age, goes on the field, anything can change with one play. So you have to keep an eye on it. But I think he'll be there at mini camps. He says he's going to be there at mini camps. He'll be there ready for the start of the season. So I certainly have no reason to doubt Tom Brady in that regard. Definitely. So I think he'll be there, be fine.
What do you mean he's a weirdo? You don't need avocado ice cream and
No. If you're gonna have ice cream, full fat ice cream, why? If I want avocados, I'll just have a freaking avocado at that point. I don't want fat free ice cream. I don't want low fat ice cream. I want the highest fat content when I want ice cream.
You're not on the TB12 method.
I'm not on the TB12. I don't want to pay like $100. Now, if you want to get a foam roller that vibrates, I think that's a great idea. I think that they can work really well. But I certainly don't need to pay $500 for the TB12 version of the foam roller that vibrates. Right. I don't need that. He did say at one point in his career that he doesn't get sunburned anymore because he drinks so much water. Like, come on, Tom, cut it out, bud.
Yeah.
Cut it out.
I'll have to try that this summer.
Yeah, exactly. Try it out.
I don't see it going well. All right. So that was our little football minute that went 7 minutes, but talking about Julian Edelman and Tom Brady. But now let's go into the NBA. Guard Jamal Murray driving to the hole, the knee buckles, torn ACL. He's an electric player. Played really well last year and was playing well this year. What are your thoughts on Jamal Murray and when we can expect to see him return?
Yeah, I think if you're a Nuggets fan, they're way out there in Denver. I think it's a big blow because they're playing really well. They have some talent on their team, and then obviously Jamal Murray was a big part of that. We were talking on the pre-show classic ACL injury mechanism. So like when they teach you in PT school or athletic training school, like his is a classic. He had that knee buckle a little bit. We call that a valgus when the knee kind of buckles in like that. So a valgus collapse of the knee. ACL tear, so he's going to be out probably until next year. I think the interesting thing is we've had a couple of basketball players now, Klay Thompson, DeMarcus Cousins, or Boogie Cousins, whatever you want to call him, who had that ACL tear. Then they had some complications, more injuries, Achilles tears afterwards. So be interesting to see kind of what happens with Jamal Murray as he goes through his rehab. But I think the only issue with him is that the fact that it happened so late this year is he's probably going to miss some time next year as well before he's ready to go again. So he actually might be maybe not his normal self for another like year and a half. So that might be the end of next season, depending on what happens with the pandemic for the fall time if they're able to start their season on time. So that's the only one drawback for you Nuggets fans. You're going to miss him obviously the rest of this year and obviously for the playoffs, but you actually might have to miss him next year. As we get closer to the playoffs too, just to see how that rehab goes.
Yeah, and anybody who's playing fantasy basketball will definitely miss him as well.
Yeah.
Another guy that you might have on your squad, same thing, coming off of an injury, recovering from a torn Achilles, is Kevin Durant, and now we see him dealing with some knee injuries, a knee contusion. Do you think this is stemming from his other injuries, or is this just something that can happen along the way?
Yeah, I think I saw the clip last night and this morning. Definitely, like, again, another classic example, guy driving to the hoop. I know another player, they kind of slams knees, and he slammed his knee right like above his kneecap, so like patella tendon and quad. These injuries can be very painful, so it's one of those things where unless you've had one before, you'll see like a lot of baseball players will get this, or lacrosse players, because the ball will hit them in their thigh. So the one thing you have to be careful with this type of thing is called myositis ossificans, which is like if that bruise, that it's basically a bruise in the muscle, and if left untreated, sometimes your body will start actually laying some bone tissue in the muscle itself, which if you can imagine like bone tissue in your quad muscle, not the most comfortable thing, very painful. And obviously that's a very severe issue.
Do you have to get that surgically removed?
Yeah, so a lot of times if it progresses to that point, they might have to go in and do surgery. The biggest trick is not allowing it to get to that point. So, you let the player rest, you rehab them, you make sure that they're feeling good and that their bodies are allowed to go through the normal healing process and they don't have any complications. But that is something that can happen with this knee contusion. You'll see it sometimes with baseball players. They'll get hit with a pitch in their biceps muscle. And sometimes if that's left untreated, that can cause some issues too down the line. So I don't think it stems from his previous injuries, but definitely a classic example of a contusion injury, like a mechanism. And I think you have to be careful with it moving forward. I think honestly, like if he didn't have anything else dealing with it and we weren't close to playoff time, then he'd be fine. But he's coming off the Achilles. He had the calf issue. He had a hamstring strain. So he's just kind of in the rut right now. He can't get a lot of games. He can't get healthy. So I think that the Nets are just going to try to take as much time as they can. We know they're going to make the playoffs, right? I think everyone who watches basketball knows that the Nets will be there, and they're probably the favorites to come out of the East. You don't need Kevin Durant right now. You need him in the playoff time. So I think it's, put him in cotton balls, make sure he's 100% ready to go when the playoffs start. And I think that's exactly what you're going to see here. They're going to let him rest as much as they can, as much as he needs to, and hopefully he'll be ready to go in the playoffs. And hopefully he'll be having a little bit better luck and less injuries when the playoffs start.
Yeah, it seems like the Lakers are taking the same approach. You got the Nets and the Lakers both getting their guys healthy for the playoff run, because it doesn't really matter what seed they end up being.
Yeah.
Everybody knows it's going to be those two teams in the finals. Unfortunately, seeing the Celtics are kind of on a little bit of a tear right now. They jumped from the 7th seed all the way up to the 3rd or 4th seed in like a week and a half. Tatum and Brown have been playing unbelievable, but I just don't see anybody getting past the Nets if they're healthy. So that's our little basketball segment. Last but not least, we have, well, definitely not least, because he's a beast, as I believe you called him earlier, and that is left fielder Ronald Acuna Jr. for the Atlanta Braves. Having an unbelievable season. The kid's only 23 years old. Sliding back into base on a pickoff attempt. Trainer comes out, checks on him. Looks like he's dealing with a little bit of an issue with his abdomen, a little bit of strain, a little bit of discomfort, and he's out right now. When I hear abdominal strain and I hear a baseball player, any of you fantasy baseball owners out there that might have him, that scares me just because of the torque of the twist from swinging, sliding, running the bases, throwing. I mean, it just seems like everything you do in baseball, maybe any sport for that matter, but baseball, I would say like a golfer and a baseball player, with how much torque and twist they have on that core section. When I see abdominal strain, that scares me that this is something that could linger if they don't, they don't let this player get right. Am I right to assume that?
You are correct. So you're absolutely right. I mean, baseball is most sports are rotational sports. Baseball, obviously, hitting, throwing, fielding, sprinting, like all those things, you need a lot of rotational components to them. You need a lot of, support from your abdominals. I think the biggest thing to be careful of with, this type of injury is sometimes, abdominal strain. It could be something like a hernia, which presents very, very similar to like an abdominal strain. A hernia, sometimes you need to take different steps. If it's a muscle strain in the abdominals, you try to do your 2 to 3 weeks of just trying to, rest and do your rehab and do your strengthening, let that muscle kind of heal. Sometimes a hernia can be a longer term issue, and sometimes you need to have surgery for that. So if he has to have a hernia surgery, he's going to have to miss, several months out of the season. So I think if you're a Braves fan, and I do have a very special Braves fan in my life, my old roommate in college, his name is Ephraim, huge Braves fan. So we're hoping for you, Eph, that this isn't a major injury. He'll probably be I would say they're probably going to put him on the 10 to 15 day disabled list and to kind of see how he progresses over these next couple of days. I think that they're getting him an MRI today to rule out anything else going on. So hopefully that comes back negative, and hopefully like 2 to 4 weeks, he'll be able to start playing again, start doing some baseball activities and feel good. This is something that some guys will see this happen sometimes in the beginning of the season, that this injury occurs. And like you had said, maybe you don't give enough time or the right amount of time, and then the player is dealing with it all season, and it can really hinder their performance the rest of the season, have to go on the DL a couple more times. So I think that the Braves should be smart. I think they should let him, sit probably for the next like 2 or 3 weeks and take it very slowly with him to make sure that when he does come back, he's ready to go. I'm going to read you the stats, Nick. 15 games so far this season. He's batting .433, 7 home runs, 16 RBIs. That's only in 15 games. So he's a beast, like you said.
That's insane.
So they need him.
And he was born in 1997, if you want to feel old.
I do feel old. He probably never listened to any DMX songs. He doesn't even know any DMX songs. R.I.P.
No.
DMX,
R.I.P. DMX, R.I.P. Black Rob, too. Like Whoa. Do you remember Like Whoa?
Yes. Black Rob died?
This past weekend, yeah.
Oh, Nick.
The greats. All the greats are passing. Much too early. So, yeah, he probably hasn't ever heard of either of those artists. But we have, because, we're 80s babies.
That's right.
That's for sure. Well, Mark, that is all I have for you today. Remember out there, if you have any questions for Dr. Mark, you got to put them in the comments below. Even if you can't join us live and you're watching this after the fact, put them down there. We will get to them next Monday. And if we get enough of them, maybe we'll even come back later in the week and answer your questions. Mark, thank you for joining us today with all your insight.
Nicholas, thank you for having me, sir.
Everybody out there, you have a happy, healthy, safe week. Happy Patriots Day if you're in Massachusetts.
That's right.
And be safe and have fun this April vacation, school vacation for all the kiddos out there.
Peace. Everyone have a good week. Enjoy the sunshine. Get out and move.